Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Triumph of Evil. I'm your host, Bishop Pete. I was originally going to rename this show from the Bizarro Gospel Hour, which is what it had previously been, to Trump is Evil. And that was right to the point, and that's pretty much what I'm going to be talking about in this show. But I discovered in doing a search that Trump is Evil has quite a few different sites on YouTube. So I thought I'd tweak it a little bit and call it The Triumph of Evil. And we'll decide whether evil is going to have triumphed permanently or not. That remains to be seen. But it's certainly making great headway under the leadership of Donald Trump. It's been kicked into a higher gear probably than it has been kicked into, at least since the Civil War. At any rate, I'd like to start out with something just a little bit different, though. And I want you to imagine Rod Serling, the old Twilight Zone show, standing off in the corner. And I want you to listen and imagine that my voice is his voice. Today's show is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a map of the United States, and there's a little town here called Peaksville. On a given morning not too long ago, the rest of the world disappeared, and Peaksville was left all alone. Its inhabitants were never sure whether the world was destroyed and only Peaksville left untouched, or whether the village had somehow been taken away. They were, on the other hand, sure of one thing, the cause. A monster had arrived in the village. Just by using his mind, he took away the automobiles, the electricity, the machines, because they displeased him. And he moved an entire community back into the Dark Ages just by using his mind. Now I'd like to introduce you to some of the people of Peaksville, Ohio. This is Mr. Fremont. It's in his farmhouse that the monster resides. This is Mrs. Fremont. And this is Aunt Amy, who probably had more control over the monster in the beginning than almost anyone. But one day she forgot. She began to sing aloud. Now the monster doesn't like singing, so his mind put her into a place where she cannot speak anymore. Oh, also the people of Peaksville, Ohio have to smile. They have to think happy thoughts and say happy things, because once displeased, the monster can wish them into a cornfield or change them into grotesque walking horror. This particular monster can read minds, you see. He knows every thought. He can feel every emotion. Oh yes, I did forget something, didn't I? I forgot to introduce you to the monster. This is the monster. His name is Anthony Fremont. He's 6 years old with a cute little boy face and blue, guileless eyes. But when those eyes look at you, you better start thinking happy. And then there's the closing narration after the familiar show in which he puts various people into the cornfield and everybody has to kiss his ass and all that. Once again, at the end, Rod Serling comes along and he says, "No comment here, no comment at all. We only wanted to introduce you to one of our very special citizens, little Anthony Fremont, age 6, who lives in a village called Peaksville, in a place that used to be Ohio. And if by some strange chance you should run across him, you had best think only good thoughts. Anything less than that is handled at your own risk, because if you do meet Anthony, you can be sure of one thing. You have entered the Twilight Zone." Well, I couldn't help thinking about that in terms of where we are right now as a country and in terms of where we are under the leadership of Donald Trump. And this guy, this asshole who's running the country right now, and running it he is, fits pretty carefully and completely into the mold of little Anthony Fremont. And you could substitute Washington, D.C. for Peaksville, Ohio, and Donald Trump for Anthony Fremont, and you've got a pretty good idea of the mess that we're in right now. So anyway, talking about Donald Trump and talking about his basic personality, I think it's kind of important to talk a little bit about what are the characteristics of narcissism. There's no doubt about the fact that Donald Trump is a narcissist. As I pointed out in previous shows, even his supporters recognize that. And up until now, they seem to have been willing to put up with it. Now they're getting a little nervous, like the people of Peaksville, Ohio, because by God, he's behaving like a real monster right now, and he's got them all scared. Well, the origins of narcissism. Well, first of all, let's talk about what narcissism consists of. There are some, major characteristics of a narcissistic personality, as psychiatric authorities agree. First one, of course, is grandiosity. That's a big one. And, stop me if any of these don't match the personality of Donald Trump as far as you're concerned. Grandiosity, a need for admiration, a lack of empathy for anyone, arrogance, pure arrogance and bragging, an exploitative characteristic to his behavior, taking advantage of other people, and envy, being envious of others or thinking that other people envy him, which creates a little bit of paranoia to kind of put the icing on the cake of narcissism. And I've talked also about how this country as a nation is a narcissistic country as well, and how we have finally gotten a president who is able to completely bring out the essential narcissism of the United States as a nation. Let's go over those characteristics of narcissism again and apply them to the U.S. as a country. Grandiose? Well, I think we're pretty grandiose, because even the people who are criticizing Donald Trump, even the people who are wringing their hands, who don't know whether to shit or go blind over what's going on and what has gone on for the past 3 months since Trump took office, are fond of saying, well, he's ruining the greatest country that ever existed on the face of the earth. Like the greatest government in the history of human beings since, I don't know, the fucking Stone Age or something. If that ain't grandiose, I don't know what it is. That departs a little bit from the natural kind of nationalistic pride that almost any country has for itself. Whether the country is Malawi or, Bangladesh or whatever country it might be. There's a line you cross between just being kind of proud of being a citizen of whatever nation you are and thinking that you're the greatest country that ever existed. And we've got that in spades. Need for admiration? Oh, hell yeah. We need admiration all the time. And one of the things that Trump is doing is bringing out the fact that he doesn't think we get enough admiration. People don't kiss our asses enough. So we're going to show them. We're going to make everybody kiss his ass, and by extension or implication, kiss the country's ass. Because really, it's more important for him to have people kiss his ass than to kiss the United States' ass. He sees himself as basically an extension of the essentially narcissistic United States. He is the narcissist in chief. Lack of empathy? Well, hell yeah, of course. I mean, Donald Trump himself has no empathy for anybody or anything. Certainly the United States doesn't ooze empathy for other countries either. Anything that we do is designed to help us and to make us look better. We're not empathetic at all. Arrogance? I mean, come on. This country, we've got, any number of national holidays that are just dedicated to, talking about what a great country we are. God bless America. Exploitative, taking advantage of other people, other countries. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do that all over the world. We're doing it right now, overtly or covertly, and we have done so for a long, long time. And envy. Being envious of other countries or being convinced that other countries are envious of us. And certainly some countries are envious of us. We are, materially speaking, quite a wealthy country. And lots of countries do wish they were more like the United States. But also, we're always on the lookout for countries that maybe think that they're a little bit better than we are. And we're saying to ourselves, well, what is it that they've got that, well, makes them better? And maybe we should get it. Maybe we should add that to us as a country, Anyway, those are the basic characteristics of narcissism as they apply to both Donald Trump and to the United States as a country. So a lot of people wonder, well, how does a person become a narcissist? There's a couple schools of thought. One is that people are just born that way. They're just wired wrong and they become narcissists. And that might, there might be some truth to that. I don't doubt it. Others think that maybe it's a nurture versus a nature kind of thing, and that the origins of narcissism may be in childhood, that the narcissist, and here just every time I say the narcissist, you can assume I'm talking about Donald Trump, that they were given maybe mixed messages, that there were very high expectations of them that were combined with an emotional distance. Maybe their mom and their dad didn't really give them that kind of close nurturing that they really needed. But that they were spoiled. They were spoiled materially. And they got material things in lieu of love. And that they were expected as an entitled child to fulfill their parents' expectations. And I think that's probably was the case with Donald Trump. So what you end up with as a person enters adulthood, as Donald Trump entered adulthood, you had an extremely self-aggrandizing, bragging kind of individual who was still at some level emotionally stunted, was childish and undeveloped in an important fundamental way, and was given to putting on tantrums. A very, very insecure child. So we've got an insecure child running the country. And maybe he's a little bit like little Anthony Fremont in that regard. At any rate, I did say that the name of this show is The Triumph of Evil. And so let's talk about good and evil. I've talked in previous episodes about good and evil, and I've said right out, and I'll say it again, Republicans are evil, and anybody who votes for a Republican is evil, and all Republicans, and for the most part, people who vote for the Democratic Party or for issues that the Democratic Party supports are essentially good people. And this has a lot to do with what it is that the two parties are trying to achieve. The Republican Party wants to achieve a situation where the dominant group, white men, or at least white people, straight white men, straight white people, are the people who really run this country, and that any attempts to try to emphasize the achievements of non-white people and women and non-straight people should be eliminated. And Trump is carefully carrying that out on behalf of the majority of white men who voted for him. So congratulations to them and congratulations to him. So, that's the kind of evil that we're dealing with here. And you might say, well, is that evil? I mean, aren't maybe some people haven't they maybe been misled? Some of the people who voted for Donald Trump, they might not have known better. They might have thought, well, he was just going to lower the price of eggs, or he was going to somehow be better than Joe Biden had been, or something like that. And I say to you, there is no mutual exclusivity between stupidity and evil. If you want to put it in anthropomorphic terms or theological terms, the devil takes advantage of stupidity in order to achieve evil on earth. Now, I'm not a theological kind of bishop. I'm just Bishop Pete, self-appointed. But just to back this up, I'll tell you a definition of evil from a theological point of view. And this is, I think, something that most religions of the world can probably agree on. Evil, theologically speaking, is anything that departs from God's good intentions in creation and breaks our relationship with God and our neighbor, or tries to take what does not belong to it. So, if you substitute the idea of just what's good for mankind for God, you can easily fit this into a non-religious context. Anything that departs from the good intentions of creation, which are to have a whole relationship with one another as human beings and a whole relationship with all of creation, all of not just humanity, but all of the entire world, all of the animal kingdom and the rest of the stuff that exists on the surface of the earth that we think is so goddamn important. Anything that interrupts that or tries to take what doesn't belong to it is evil. Well, hell, it's pretty obvious that that people who voted for Donald Trump want that. They want things to be taken that don't. They want to have things that don't of right belong to them. They want resources. They want money. They want praise. They want adulation from the rest of the world. They want basically power that doesn't rightfully belong to them. Now, a definition of a pure evil person in a non-religious context could be seen as a person who has no redeeming qualities. This type of villain cannot show empathy, compassion, regrets, remorse, or love for anyone. In addition, any actions out of genuine concern or for altruistic reasons are disqualifying factors, and the villain cannot count as pure evil. Well, let's hold Donald Trump up to that definition of a pure evil villain. Certainly the man has no empathy for anyone. He couldn't care less about anybody, and he'll throw people under the bus as he needs to. He's not going to stick with anybody unless he thinks that it's for his own prestige or to maintain his own reputation or to make a point of some kind. He doesn't have any compassion. The guy is just, he lacks that gene, or, it was bred out of him in childhood. He certainly has no regrets about anything. And he doesn't have any remorse or any love for anybody. He just keeps moving on and without regard to anything having to do with altruism or doing something just for the sake of other people or other countries. So he fits the definition of a pure evil villain very, very well. In future episodes, I'm going to amplify on this definition of evil and talk more about individual aspects of evil as they get played out in this country, as they have been played out historically and as I think they are being played out now. But suffice it to say, for this episode, Trump is evil. Evil is triumphing at this point, and it's going to continue to triumph unless and until something is done to stop the evil that is in charge of the country at this time. And whether that's going to happen, we don't know. So that's all for this episode of The Triumph of Evil, but I hope you'll join me again soon for another episode. Until then, this is your pal Bishop Pete saying so long.